You know, I would just say that there's no one model that's a solution for all the countries or all the areas of a country or all the communities. Urban areas are going to have different solutions from villages and peri-urban areas. Our organization typically works in villages and peri-urban areas, and so the solutions there are very different than what they would be in a developed country. We address groundwater and surface water and rainwater catchment, and really we try to look at what solution is best for that community. But there's a lot of hand pump wells that we're involved with, which are very different solutions from developed countries, and some of the problems with hand pump wells of maintenance of hand pumps, really you have to address that through the capacity building and again the ownership of the water system. So it is a quite different model from most developed countries.
Thank you.
I'll only say, I mean, on the issue of water in bottles, yes, I mean, it will be disinfected as long as the water's clear. If the water's not clear, it's turbid, it won't be. Or if it's got algae in it, which would reflect the sunlight, you won't get that. But having said that, I mean, I know communities in the Ogaden area of Ethiopia, the Somali district, you know, you find that what people have done there in very, very arid areas, they've basically collected surface water in the rains into what I saw as extremely large swimming pools, left it, and of course if you leave water open, even in not in a glass, but open, you'll set a certain amount of bacteria die off anyway. And there you can find that you can get huge swimming pools, millions and millions of litres of water, and I've tested much of that, and there's no bacteria in it. So it's depending upon the community. They sell that water to nomadic communities that come through. In other places, it's not very practical to do that. But so it depends. There are huge numbers of sort of appropriate technology solutions, which I would agree with you, should be supported. And if they work in areas, try and make them work.
Thank you, Paul. Joshua, last question. Thank you.
Hi, I have a quick question, and I'm going to frame it just simply as, how do we do more with less? And I'll put it in the context of we're heading to a world where I think Professor Sherlock mentioned that how do we deal with large-scale emergencies in urban environments? And I think that's going to be a big driver of change in how we deal with water and sanitation in the future. We're now crossing the threshold of 50% is not urban, 75% by 2050. We're spending more in 1 year in 2007 on catastrophes, 70 billion versus that's the same amount in all the 70s and 80s combined. I think, and then there's the number out there that we need to spend 30 billion to achieve access for water and sanitation to everyone. We're at 14.5 right now in spending. I'm curious as to, I think all these numbers are going to go up in the future. So when I'm dealing with this when I'm 50, I think we're, just the US, they're talking about 500 to 900 billion to adapt their water infrastructure, water and wastewater infrastructure to 2050. So I think my question is, how do we do more with less? And what's your vision? Where is this dialogue going to be by another 20, 30 years from now?
Okay, I'll give all the panelists half a minute to answer.
Well, I would argue that we don't have to do more with less, that we should always continue to push for more. In the case of health, if you set your vision so low that you're already expecting not to achieve what you think you might be able to, you're going to have people die, and I think we're going to run into the same thing with food and with water. I would like to take the previous gentleman's comments and see how can we involve new technology that may actually make some of these services cheaper or easier to do, and not just in poor countries but in our own. And that way maybe we will get some cost savings, or we may get some efficiencies in there. But don't set your sights so low. I'll be 50 way before you will, and I know we'll still be dealing with a lot of these issues. But don't be realistic, but don't cap your dreams on it.
Well, I think we have to do more with more, and it's really building capacity in the community so that they can operate and maintain their water systems. We support local entrepreneurs who will support behavior change, hygiene change, and so it's really building that capacity within the communities, within the local governments, and really trying to do more with more.
Some of us can't remember when we were 50, not when we're going to be 50. I think there's a lot of conscious effort around at the moment, a lot of knowledge and understanding that the sort of things that you're raising, that by 2030, 2020, that the numbers are going to be greater, the urban community is going to be greater, and all the rest of it. I think also that there is now a better understanding in the development community that preparedness for emergencies is a part of what you do developmentally. Before, the development community went off in one direction and the humanitarian guys were in another, and nobody talked to each other because we had two separate things. I hope now that sort of understanding is going. It's going in as much that the development community, when we're talking about planning and working with community development, you build in what we all call as DRR these days, as a disaster risk reduction areas. So I think that there's a better understanding, but we've got to work to make sure that, because if the predictions are as they are, then by 2030, enormous numbers of communities living in urban environments, for example, won't have water, and there's going to be riots and there's going to be all sorts of problems. So we really have got to somehow solve this, and it has to be with new technology and better understanding.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close the session, but just before I do, I just want to remind you all that in September this year, there'll be more than 100 heads of state here at a MDG summit that will last for 2.5 days around the time of the General Assembly, third week or so of September. And at that time, we'll be looking at the MDGs, and the MDGs were mentioned here today several times up till 2015. But what we are looking at is, what do we do after 2015? What will MDG Phase 2 look like? The MDGs, a lot of the targets are to get halfway, 2/3, 1/3. Education is 100%, but it's the only one. What do we do with the rest? How do we get to 100% for everything? And especially today, we talk of water, sanitation. We also work with energy. And, women and girls spend a lot of their time, too much of their time, carrying 30 kilograms of wood and water on their head. That's a task that has no use, that needs to be eliminated. It's not a useful task. It's good if you can carry school books, computer, these kind of tasks are useful. Or carry wood across the village or across your yard. But to carry 20 kilograms of wood or water for an hour or two at a time is not useful. So we're looking at how to limit, and by eliminating these tasks, which we've seen in these slides, I think we'll achieve all of the MDGs, and that we need to do 100% access to water, sanitation, and basic energy needs by 2030. Thank you very much. I think now we'll have a, thank you. We'll have a break for, I believe, 10 minutes. Did you manage to get your film going?
Oh, yeah.
Donna may put the film on, and as you're walking out, you may want to watch it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good video too.